Happy New Year 2022. May all the wishes that you have for this year come true. This video is long overdue. I wanted to make a series of videos right after my trips where I do evaluate what I've learned, because I'm so blessed. I learn every time. And the last trip I did on the Ping River from the Doi Dao to the Bhumibol Dam was no exception. In particular, that trip, I would say I learned a lot. And since some of the things I learned was kind of relearning, because I've been out of the game for so long that I forgot things, then I thought it was a good idea to do this as a kind of a post-trip evaluation for myself, but I thought you might find it of a value as well. So while we are there, I just think I want to use the opportunity first to give a huge shout out to Feel Free. Because if you have watched my video from the trip on Doi Dao to Bhumibol, then you would have noticed that my back compartment in my Feel Free kayak was not holding water. I mean, it was holding water very well inside it. It was leaking. And it did cause us a little bit of a trouble on the trip. These kayaks were brought up from Bangkok by Mark, my friend, and they had never been used before. They were brand new. So obviously it came as a big surprise for us that it was not holding water. But when Mark he came back, it turned out the Feel Free in Bangkok, they have seen the video that I made, and they contacted him and proposed to come pick it up and fix it for him for free. That is a huge shout out for Feel Free. I'm really surprised about that. But it became even better so, because as they went and picked up the kayak a couple of days after our trip, a day or two later they called him and said that instead of fixing it, they offered him a brand new kayak instead for free. Now, when you're buying kayaks and stuff like this, it's always the game, especially if you're buying inflatable kayak, but also with hardshell kayaks, because fixing it is not easy. But what's going to happen if you buy something and it's not working? So being able to trust the people who sells it to actually provide a good service, that is key to buy things like this. But when you have a company like Feel Free who by own initiative goes out and offers to help, I mean, you can't replace that. So I'm definitely contemplating a Feel Free kayak now. I've been into thinking about a hardshell kayak for a while. I thought about the Karma RG from Jackson, but I gotta get that one from the US. And I know if I had a similar problem with a kayak I bought in the US, how would I be able to handle that? Shipping that back and forth ain't gonna be an option. So definitely Feel Free has come on my radar. Anyway, thank you, Feel Free. This video is also about that leak, you could say, because the first item I want to bring up is my dry bag. When I was paddling, and I've been paddling now for 6-7 years, I always use dry bags like these, and they're really good. I mean, not all that heavy, they are very sturdy, you do not puncture them, and when you roll them up, you are very good to go. I mean, I have had no incidents whatsoever in all my time kayaking. But there is a difference between kayaking hardshell and inflatable. Inflatable, my bags are always on the top and I can always see them. So the worst water I can get on them is if it's raining. But usually I then cover it up anyway. But what happened on this trip was that this bag here was in the back compartment and it was submerged, literally submerged. The whole compartment was 100% flooded. And then these bags no longer does their job. I mean, they cannot keep water out no matter what you do if it is literally for hours on end being submerged. So I was looking for some compression bags, and the best thing I could find for the purpose is a huge Ziploc bag like these. I mean, they are double ziplocked up here, so there's a good security to it. And they do feel strong and good. And the idea is that I can put all my important gear, my clothes and stuff like that, I do not want to get wet, into this bag and then into these afterwards. And this way, no matter what happens, I will stay dry. Now, like I said, I've only had one single incident in all my time kayaking, and that was on this very last trip. That makes me very aware of where the problem is, so it's very unlikely to happen again. But unlikely and for sure, that's two different things. And I know that night I had to sleep with no sleeping gear that was dry. It was not all that fun. And it does not cost much of extra dollars, and doesn't cost much in weight, it doesn't cost much in time. So I don't see any reason why I should compromise, even though it is remote chance for me happening again. So they have yet to be used, but I'm confident they're going to be very good. The other one, this is a lesson learned from time to time kind of thing. That is my little pouch here for my phone. That was going to be a very expensive experience again. A year ago, year and a half ago, I can't remember how far away it is, I was doing a 2-day kayaking trip on the Ping River up in Chiangdao area. And we came to an obstruction and I had to get out of the kayak, and I had my phone in my life vest. It was a phone rated for, I think it was 3 meters for half an hour with no problem. It was a good expensive phone. And so I didn't have it in any like this. And I was jumped in the water and I was submerged, the pouches on my vest in the water for, I'd say, maybe 10 minutes or so. So it was no problem whatsoever, but I was wrong. Because what happens is when you buy a phone that is rated for a certain water resistance, then it is probably so when you buy it. But after a certain amount of time, especially here in Thailand, because of the humidity, because of, I don't know, something in the air, all the glue that keeps things together will just go undone. So 6 months down the lane, you are not likely to have a phone that is waterproof to the extent that it is rated when you buy it. And that was a problem with my phone back then, and I lost it. I mean, it just didn't work. So I should have bought one of these by then, but I didn't. I went out on my Ping trip again, and if you've seen the video, you will have noticed that at a certain point I lost my drone. What happened was, I had my phone as usually in my life vest, and when I came to that little waterfall where I wanted to film, I pulled my phone out, my drone out, but as I wanted to plug it into the controller so I could see what I was doing, it kept reporting that it was impossible because there was moist in my USB port. And no matter how I flipped and turned the dial, there was nothing I could do about it, and that annoyed me. But that was just one problem. The second problem was then I started the drone without my phone on it, so I couldn't see what the drone was looking at, but I could just see the drone. That was a mistake, because as the drone flew out and I thought it was just hanging nicely, all of a sudden, for a reason I don't know, it started to drift. And it drifted behind a rock, and the waterfall was noisy. I had no idea whether it dropped out of the sky into the water or if it landed somewhere. Now, as the story tells, we were lucky it landed in the grass there, and we did find it, and that was a very happy ending on that one. But that was the second time that the lack of pouch for my phone was going to cost me a lot of grief and money. So that's definitely a must. Now there is another thing, that's a bit of a luxury thing, and this is this one here. This is a portable grill. If you've seen that video, again, you will have noticed it. When I do these trips, I'm always very weight conscious. There are certain things I do not mind to carry for the luxury it gives me. One of these things is my chair. I don't like to sit on the ground. I don't like to sit on a rock that isn't level or it's too bumpy, it hurts. No, I want a proper chair when I go somewhere. So that kilo is good for me to carry. I don't mind it. But a barbecue grill, I've been looking at these for a couple of years, but I never touched them because I thought that is a stupid little gadget for gadget freaks, because you always have a way to put your things in the fire, or if you want to barbecue meat, you just put it on a stick and that's it. But then Mr. Mark, he brought it along. He brought a lot of other good things along, but he brought this one along as well. And I realized how convenient it is. I mean, you could put your frying pan on it, regulate the heat easy under it. It doesn't have to be a matter of moving rocks or moving sticks around to do that. You could have some good tenderloin beef dumped right on it, and you control it, or sausages. You don't have to use a pan, and that's easy as well. And I realized, yeah, I'm getting older. I like luxury. So I just had to have one of those. So you're going to see this one definitely on the future trips. And what else did I learn? Yes, this is old teaching, actually, very old teaching. When I did a kayaking trip about a couple of years ago, I think it was, I did attempt to do the Doi Dao to the Bhumibol Dam, and I failed. I was halfway through and I had to bail out. And I had to bail because of heat exhaustion. I was hit harder than I ever have been. I think the last day I stopped kayaking and took a rest for 3 or 4 days before I returned home. that day I drank 11 liters of water, not water just, but also Coca-Cola, but 11 liters of fluid, predominantly water. And yet I could not hydrate well enough. And it was only after then I realized the importance of electrolytes. I've always, when I've been doing trail running, been using electrolytes, but that's been a reflex because everybody else does it. It has been done without actually knowing why electrolytes are that important. I made a specific video about it. I put a link to it in the description where you can see more specifics why electrolyte is important and what it does to your body. But pouring powder into water all the time, especially when your hands full with paddling and you're working in the heat, it's not all that fun. So I found these chewables, salt sticks chewables. You can have them in lemon taste and peach taste and watermelon, I think it is. This one here is peach, perfectly peach, as they say. What I really like about these is that you just take 1 or 2 of those every hour and chew it up and you're good. Just add a little bit of water, obviously drinking, and you're good. It also means that if you have a water source, then you have not contaminated your water source with electrolyte. You can use that for other things that you want to do, if that is being cooking or if it's cleaning wounds. While if you are doing electrolyte powder into water and you have a bottle with that, you can't really use it for much else but just drinking it. So I really like this. And every single trip I have done so far, without exception, when they have been like these 5-10 hours of work a day, I've always suffered from cramps in more or less extent. And definitely in my hands and my legs or feet, in nighttime when it's cooling down and I'm lying in my hammock, I really suffer badly. But also when I'm out paddling sometimes, if it's get a cold shower, for instance, raining. But on the last pink trip here, which was one of the hardest one I've done, because it extended over 5 days, 4 nights, and we did 131 kilometers, I did not suffer a single day with cramps at all. But I did also chew, well, I think about 2/3 of a jar of electrolytes on that trip. But it was easy. It was just you're paddling, and then every hour you just take 1 or 2 and you keep doing that. You don't feel the need for it, but you keep doing it because it's important for you to be able to absorb the water. So very advisable, chewable salt sticks. The last thing is actually something that, if I looked at people doing camping trip and I saw people bringing this along, I always felt like maybe you should stay at home, because you're kind of bringing all the comfort of your home with you, and that's not really what camping and hiking to me was about. But here I am, and maybe I'm just growing older. And this is the table. Look at that. Solid surface, plain surface. There's no cloth or anything that would be wobbly around, and it's on a very good and sturdy foundation. Wraps down to almost nothing, doesn't weigh much. But I can tell you, my perspective on having a table with you when you're doing these trips have changed radically. One thing is what you know by looking at it and what you know by logic, but another thing is when Mark Hidian put a table up between us, and all of a sudden you had a place to put your phone, you had a place to put your cameras, you had a place to put your glass without it tipping over or your risk of kicking it because it's just standing around somewhere. You had no critters and ants and God knows what in it. It was just elevated and nice. My God, that was a revelation to me, absolutely. So that was literally one of the first things I did when I came home, was to order myself one of these tables here. I really like it. It is such a small, combined with the chair here, you could bring that in your bag and you will have less than 2 kilos of extra weight. Now, whatever you then do, you know that when you're hiking out there and you're sweating and your legs hurts and maybe your back hurts, not because you're carrying too much, but simply because you're walking or hiking. And then you get to lunchtime or maybe you get to dinner time, that is already sorted. You sit down and you relax and you sit comfortably. And you can relax in your bag, you can relax in your legs because you can lean back. And then at elevated level, you have your table where you can have your food, you can have your drinks, you can have your electronic gears, it'll fiddle with them, and it does not matter if the whole area is mudded or the whole area is riddled with ants or the whole area is like this with the high grass that is annoying. No, you're so comfortable. So that table is definitely going to be part of my mandatory equipment on all my trips. I can guarantee you that. The last bit I want to share with you is a little advice or a little trick or a little tip that really has become invaluable for me. And the tip is these here. I'm not sure I've already shared information of those some of my other videos, but it's worth bringing up again. These are towel already moist, already with some sort of disinfectants in it, and already with something that makes you smell human if you're out there and getting really dirty and sweaty. I like them because you can buy them in 7-Eleven and they cost, the big towel here costs just shy of $1, and the other one here costs something like, I'd say 40 cents or so. So while the first one here is for wiping your hands and face, this is for a bigger cleanup. Really can recommend it. They're hanging close to the milk section in the refrigerator in 7-Elevens, and that means they are really nice in the heat to go in there, grab one of those, and you can cool down instantly. I love them. They are also in my emergency kit or my go home kit when I'm out on my bigger trip. I have a bag with the clothes I plan to bring with me, to be wearing when I'm going home. And if I don't have proper facilities for a proper cleanup, then these trucker showers here is really invaluable. It's okay to at least just take the worst of the dirt and the worst of the smell off before you enter into civilization again. So highly recommended. Anyway guys, I just thought I wanted to make this little evaluation. You might learn something from it. For me, it's a good reminder as to what is important when you go out on a trip, and I keep learning and I love it. So until next time, stay curious.